This is the Silent Base 600, a silence optimized case from BeQuiet. With two Pure Wings fans, sound dampening foam, and the option for a windowed side panel, BeQuiet aims for a no compromise experience. But have they succeeded? And is this a PC case worthy of your time? Find out in the full review. Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to another video. So then, the Silent Base 600. This PC case from BeQuiet is more of a traditional style of PC case. It does away with things like basements and focuses on performance in terms of cooling and optimizing the quietness of the case when it's in operation. And to take this thing out of the box and actually have a look at it for the first time, I was quite impressed with the way it looks. It's available in a few different colours and a few different styles, this one being the orange version and the windowed version, but you can get other colours like silver, and if you don't want a window then you can have one without a window, and overall I would say that it is a good looking case. You'll find that you have the orange accented colour surrounded by the air vents, then you've got two USB 2.0 ports, 3.0 ports, and then you've got a headphone and microphone jack. If you open up, you'll find that we have sound dampening foam, access to our optical drives, and a fan controller. Take the front off and you're able to access the front fan, and here you can mount a 140mm fan or a 120mm fan / radiator. Moving to the top part of the case, and this bit is all plastic, but here you'll find your air vents and then your power button that glows orange when in use. Looking to the side of the case and you'll find that the side window is very large. You can see pretty much all of your components here, and removing it with the thumb screws is very simple, but I would prefer it if the thumb screws stayed attached to the case once you remove them. Now as we move on towards the inside of the case, you'll see that there is plenty of space here to work. It's very big, it's light, it's airy, and you shouldn't have a problem getting what you need to do done. The hard drive cage is removable, and at the rear you'll find a pre-installed 120mm fan, though it's definitely disappointing that you can't fit a 140mm fan given this case's size. One thing that you will find here that you won't find on many other new cases coming out though is the 5¼ drive bays, and here you've got 3 slots that can be used for optical drives, water cooling gear, whatever you like really. Around the back you'll find it's pretty much business as usual really, nothing here to shout about. 7 PCIe covers, support for a full size power supply, and you do have a removable dust filter that is easily removed and replaced from the bottom of the case. So nothing really to report here. Now as we move over to the other side of the case, you'll find a fairly plain looking side panel, although we have a raised BeQuiet cutout area that does allow this side panel to breathe slightly. Taking the side panel off reveals a fair amount of work area. There's plenty of space here, but the SSD mounts on the right hand side of the case do mean that it can be a little bit more tricky to cable manage, and there's not really that many places to actually tie down the cables unfortunately. It's certainly doable, but it's not going to be the easiest case out there, though you will find noise dampening foam on this side panel. Elsewhere on the case you'll find the bottom has 4 rubberized feet that do a good job of keeping the case raised and stopping it from slipping on hard surfaces, and of course your box of goodies, and the goodies including screws and your hard drive caddies, and the hard drive caddies are probably the most notable thing to report, as they're not caddies per se, they're 2 silicone strips that actually attach to your hard drives. Now these are going to dampen the vibrations that your hard drives will make, and while I didn't actually use them because this was SSD only, they should do a decent job and be easy to install using the supplied thumb screws. But for the SSD that I did install, it's fairly simple. You do need to screw down, and I'd definitely like to see a toolless method because pretty much everyone's going this way, and it does feel a little bit weird screwing in an SSD as they're not really going to move about anyway, but they're fairly simple to install. But I definitely would like to see more SSD mounts because I'm probably going to be using more than 2 SSDs rather than using a whole bunch of old-fashioned hard drives. Now as we move on towards the finished build, it took me around about an hour, so really not very long. This was an X99 platform build, if that makes much difference to you, and I utilised an HX1200i power supply, which is very long, and it fit without any issues whatsoever, and that was without moving the hard drive cage. Around the back, the cable management, definitely would like to see more hooks. And if you want to hide cables, you can't really do it. There's literally nowhere to hide them. unless you're of course utilizing the non-windowed version, then you can just stick them somewhere out of sight. So I would definitely prefer to see slightly better cable management, but generally speaking, I got a system I am proud of. I think it looks good, and I think that it does do a decent job of cooling the system, but most importantly, being quiet, as obviously in the name, it should be a quiet running system, and it very much is. It should go without saying that your system is only going to be as quiet as your loudest component, but having said that, the case did do a good job of dampening the sound, and as soon as you remove the side panel, you can notice an increase in noise, as you would expect. Of course, if you go for the non-windowed side panel, you won't be able to see anything, but the effect should, at least in theory, be that little bit quieter. If you're going to put this under your desk, I really doubt you're going to hear anything if you tune your fans correctly. But while the case does allow you to build a system very easily and have it running cool and quietly, I don't understand why you can't have a 140mm fan around the back. And while you can't have more than one fan on the front, this really does baffle me a little bit, and it is definitely going to limit you with your water cooling potential. All-in-one water cooling liquid graphics cards, maybe not quite an option here. Now above the power supply, you'll find that there isn't really any room, well there isn't any room, to route cables around, which made cable management a little bit more difficult, and the case does like to attract fingerprints. But despite these flaws, I have to say I've very much enjoyed my time with the Silent Base 600, and it's probably the sort of case I would be looking at for my own personal rig, as if you want something that runs quietly, coolly, is easy to build in, then I don't really think you need to look too much further, which is why it wins the Top Performer Award. It's not the most modern case out there, and I prefer some other cases that have things like basements, better cable management, but it's definitely a solid choice, and it does a very good job at being a decent system holder, I guess. So there we go. If you have any questions, leave them down below. It's at PC Centric on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all those good places as well for any more questions. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, leave a comment down below. A massive thank you to Corsair for sponsoring the channel as always, and of course to BeQuiet for supplying this review sample. A massive thank you once again. Amazon link is down below, and I'll see you in the next video.